Hey guys, Cole here. Just wanted to preference this episode. Was super excited to shoot it with Jon Gilley, and I apologize. So apparently I was so excited to shoot this that I didn't pull my mic in front of my face. So I sound like I'm echoing in the whole room, but it's not about me. This is a great episode with a great guest. So just try to dismiss that. Sorry, I don't want to talk a lot in it anyway. So. Here's Kitchen Table Sessions Real Talk, Episode 1 with Jon Gilley. All right, and welcome to Kitchen Table Sessions Real Talk. I have with me Jon Gilley. What's up, man?
What's up, man? How are you?
Pretty good.
Glad you're here.
We're in Oxford, Mississippi. I said welcome, but we're in your kitchen, so,
Welcome. Glad you're here.
So you're technically the first episode of Real Talk. So
so special, so honored.
So we're going to go ahead and get right back into it. So
Awesome.
basically this podcast is like we're trying to get to know people in ministry and like just special people that I meet in my life. And so I knew of you, but we really just like met this past year at Merge, which was great. Through Andrew Harbor. I knew your brother just because he's my D-Now leader.
Okay.
And then I saw him at Best Buy all the time, too.
Yeah.
Back in the
He's
old
everybody's
days.
Best Buy hookup.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, just met you there, and I was super impressed because a lot of times when you go to camps, there's two types of like worship teams. There's the type of worship team that's just straight worship, and like there's no upbeat, and the kids are just like looking around. And then there's the ones that are like way too much, like they don't stop, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember the first night I was getting like the camera ready and everything, and y'all went straight into worship, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Then the next night y'all opened up with like Young and Free, so it was y'all did a great job. I never told you that, but
Awesome, man.
Awesome job. But let's go ahead and get into it. Just kind of tell people who you are, where you're from. Maybe start off with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from North Carolina, a town called Wilmington, North Carolina. So on the coast. It's awesome. I miss it. And North Carolina is like the best because you have mountains, you got the beach, you got everything in between. So grew up there. When I was about 16, my family moved to Alabama, where my dad's originally from. We actually traveled full time and did like Southern gospel music.
Oh, cool.
So a lot
That's
of people
awesome.
don't know that. Yeah, we did like the whole family band thing for a few years. So we were in like almost 100 churches a year for a few years there. So that's what I did kind of through high school with my family. And then ended up at Blue Mountain College, of all places, from North Carolina to Blue Mountain, Mississippi. And so it's funny, I always said that I would never live in Mississippi, go to school in Mississippi, or marry someone from Mississippi. and I've done all three, and I'm so happy to have done it now. It's funny, though, like, I don't even know why I said that. I think it's just like, the only context I had for Mississippi was like driving through like I-20 or 78.
Not
and
much.
So, no, it was like nothing. So I was like, man, this place is interesting. So, but man, over the past few years, so I started at Blue Mountain in 2010. And so over the past almost 10 years, God's definitely given me a heart for Mississippi, which is awesome. It's become home for me. I married someone from Mississippi. I've gone to school in Mississippi, and I've lived here. So I've done all three of those things. And so ended up going to school at Blue Mountain College and served on staff at some churches throughout that. And we can kind of talk a little bit more about that, just kind of how God weaved together like a ministry calling and all of that. But served some churches during my time in Mississippi or at Blue Mountain. And then after I graduated, I got married like toward the end of my junior year, which is crazy. Kind of got married a little young. And so Heather and I, were serving in church together. And then when I graduated, we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I did like a ministry residency at a church there. And was there for around a year and then moved back here to Oxford to help launch Pine Lake Church, Oxford campus. So yeah, that's like the condensed
version. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I first heard about Pine Lake because I went to Mississippi State for a little while, and so they said, "Hey, you should check out Pine Lake and Starkville." So I went there and was like, "This is pretty cool." And then I found out there was multiple sites, and my church ended up using y'all as like a model for satellite.
That's awesome.
y'all been a big blessing, I know, just in our lives as well. Let's go into like maybe your like call to ministry, that type,
Yes, for
like
sure.
get into that a little bit.
Yeah, man. Well, so first of all, I always like to just take a minute to like honor my parents, because I think what God has kind of done in my life is kind of an overflow of what He did and is doing in their life. What I mean by that is like I'm a pastor's kid, so even before we travel full time, like my dad was a pastor, and so always grew up, in church, around church, just in the, I mean, there before anybody was there, turned off the lights and locked up when we left.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for that, because, a lot of pastors' kids kind of struggle with that. But I saw my parents a love for Jesus and a love for the church that fueled that.
Yeah.
And so it never felt like it was subtracting from anything in our lives, And so I really appreciate how my parents handled that and how they led that or led us in that to really value church and really value what that's supposed to be, and how God uses that in us and uses us in a church setting. And so it was cool to just see growing up my parents really model that well. And so I remember I was probably 13 years old, 14 years old, and really being able to experience like this feeling of like, I feel like God's calling me to ministry.
Yeah.
Not really anything super tangible. It wasn't like a moment in a service necessarily, but just feeling like, hey, God's leading me to something. I was saved at a really young age. Very grateful for that. At Vacation Bible School, so just kind of that whole story. But through those years between being saved at Vacation Bible School and kind of going through teenager stuff, God was just continually developing in me just a relationship with Him and a sense of calling and purpose. And so I think that in that, I was trying to discern, like, what does it look like, a ministry calling? Like, I remember being really young and thinking, well, I've either got to be a pastor or a missionary. Like, those are the only two things.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. And so, my older two siblings had felt a call to missions, and so I was like, well, maybe that's it. My dad's a pastor, maybe it's that. And so anyway, just kind of, I say wrestle with that as maybe a 13-year-old can. And man, continue just to kind of pray through that and feel like, hey, I feel like God is calling me to something, not really sure what it is. In the meantime, just had a passion for music, and that was kind of a side thing. Like, my whole family's musical. I played, violin and a couple instruments, like, from the time when I was really young. Like, I started, around 7 or 8 years old, and so that was just a passion of mine. And so I feel like those two things kind of intersected when I was kind of later in my teenage years. So I was like 16 or 17, and had been praying through that, and actually was in a service and felt like God kind of just gave me some clarity, like, hey, I'm calling you to worship ministry. And what's funny is I had no clue what that looked like. The only context I had for that was what I'd grown up in, which was awesome, but very traditional,
Yeah, I know.
So like when I was, 16 or 17, whatever that was, and felt like I was calling me to worship ministry, I could never even imagine, what I'm doing now, or just what that looked like in context, know? And so I just knew that God had given me a passion for music and had called me to ministry. So I was like, okay, well, those two things can intersect. So I just started doing everything I could to like prepare myself kind of technically and trying to find opportunities to do those things that I felt like God was calling me to do. And so when I was 18, it was kind of my first time and really only time in my life, which is funny to think about, but the only time in my life where I had to like go out and look for a church to attend because like I was always at my dad's church or on staff later in life at a church. And so I had come off the road with my family. They were still traveling and singing, and Dad was teaching. And I came off the road and was going to save some money to go to school. So I was like, I wanted to work for a year, save some money, do that whole thing. So I was looking for a church to attend in Decatur, Alabama, and started attending this church, and literally just as a member, and started singing in a choir, started singing on a praise team is what they called it back then. Started singing like with their college worship team, and Then one day, like the worship pastor was like, "Hey, can you lead on a Sunday night?" I was like, "Okay," like I'd never really done that. So he's like, "Okay, I can do that." So learned some songs, and I led on a Sunday night. And a few weeks later, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to be out of town. Can you fill in for me on Sunday morning?" I was like, like a big gulp. Okay. I mean, this is a pretty good sized church. And I mean, I was just like, I was 18 years old. I literally had no experience. And so I just said yes. I mean, I just kept saying yes to whatever God put in front of me. And so I did that. And a couple weeks later, the pastor called and was like, "Hey, our worship pastor is moving on to another church. And would you like fill in the gap until we find someone?" I was like, "Okay, like let's do this," So, man, since then, I mean, it's just been a series of, God opening doors, but opening doors to things that I wasn't fully capable of doing. And which is scary in the moment, but it's awesome to look back and be able to see that in those moments, like I had to rely on Jesus. Because I literally at that first church, like I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't in a lot of ways, but I was like super, super green. And so, anyway, I'm thankful, that God just continued to open doors, but also for people that, gave opportunities to someone who was super young and inexperienced, So, yeah. And since then, man, just been continuing to step through doors that Jesus opens. So
that's awesome. I think it's cool what you said. I've heard a lot of people say that they don't really feel like they're equipped in certain areas to do certain things or whatever. But I mean, I think that's why God allows us some doors to open, is so that like we can just rely on Him, that just rest in Him. I always tell people that like God's not going to call you to something you're not qualified to do, or He's not going to qualify you to do. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I mean, even now, like in the season of ministry that we're in as a family, I mean, there's things right now that feel like it's, man, too hard. And so in those moments, it's awesome, even just moments like this, to be able to look back and remember, like, hey, God was faithful then. If He called me to it, then He's going to give me the grace that I need to walk through it, And so, as cliche as that sounds, but that's just the truth. He's been faithful before, and He'll continue to be faithful. So it's awesome to see that, and man, just allow that to build faith in me for what I'm in now and for the next season. Because hopefully God's going to continue to open doors of opportunity and ministry and relationship that hopefully I'll have the courage and faith to step through. So
yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we're gonna go through some like rapid fire.
Yes, let's do it.
Quick questions so that people can get to know you maybe a little better. So we'll start off pretty easy. Like favorite color?
Blue.
Okay, that's simple. That's good. Hobby? What's your favorite thing to do on your like off time?
Oh man, the real answer is I don't have a hobby.
No,
I should. Yeah, no, I really should. I would say like kayaking, like
same.
Getting out on a lake, and maybe I'm fishing. I'm not like the most outdoorsy person, but that's kind of
it's relaxed.
Yeah, for sure.
I get so. Okay. Let's see. Go-to karaoke song.
Oh man, probably. Hold on. John Mayer.
Any song?
I'm trying to think of the specific song. Gravity.
I mean, you can't beat it.
You can't. Yeah,
I used to have a teacher in college, and when we weren't like engaged in the class at all, he would turn on a John Mayer concert. We would just watch it. And we Gravity every time.
That's awesome. That era of John Mayer too is like the best.
Yeah.
So like Continuum, live in LA.
All right. So what is one embarrassing story?
An embarrassing story
that you can share.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I've had many. So I'm trying. So like, there's one that happened on platform, and then there's one. So I'll go and share that one. Okay. I had the worst voice crack in the history of the world on platform one time. Leading, I don't know if you know the song, "The King is Among Us" by Elevation Worship. I love that song. So good. And it kind of builds up through the song, and then it washes out into this bridge. And, that's where you kind of get into that hook, like the King is among us, His glory surrounds us, the fire is falling as we sing.
Yeah.
And like the band drops out, but I'm still singing high. And when I did, my voice was like, it just kept cracking. It was really bad. It was like I don't even know how to describe
You
it.
just
But
turn
like
red.
if you've ever experienced anything, like sometimes you try to sing through it, and like if I just keep going, like
And
it'll
it
get better.
just never broke.
It
It
never
just
broke.
stayed
It
there.
just kept going. I was like, man. And so it was on video too, so I would like go back and watch it. But just remember that, sometimes God needs to remind me that I'm not all that special. So,
yeah. All right, let's think. Favorite movie? You have a favorite movie?
Oh man. Favorite movie? Probably like Braveheart.
Me
I know
too.
that sounds like
No.
really stereotypical
That's
dude
mine.
movie.
Every year on my birthday,
Yeah.
I eat cookies and I watch Braveheart.
That's a good
Every
birthday.
year. It takes 4 hours to do it, but it's good.
What's funny? Quick funny story.
Yeah.
Like growing up, like my parents, I grew up pretty sheltered.
Yeah. Same.
My parents had like this program where you would like buy filters for movies, and like they would filter out.
Yes.
And so Braveheart was like much shorter. It wasn't
It was
4
like an
hours.
hour and a half.
So then like going back and watching as adults, like I don't remember that part.
No, I was watching a movie at my buddy's house. It was our associate pastor.
Yeah.
I'm like best friends with his sons. And we're watching a movie. It's like Into the Gray with Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I was like, man, it's an awesome movie. So I went back to my mom, we have to watch this. I didn't know they had that filter.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
ordered on DirecTV. And literally the first 3 seconds, it just starts the language is just horrible. My mom looks at me and goes, you watched this at Brother Dyer's house? I was like, I did. I promise. I totally promise.
That's awesome.
So those are the words. But
Yeah. That's
All right, last one. The Office or Parks and Rec?
Oh, The Office, like
Office.
1,000%.
Okay, we're good.
So you're wearing an Office shirt,
Yeah,
and I knew that we were going to be even better friends after that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you having us in your home.
Welcome.
But this
Welcome
has
back
been
anytime.
Kitchen Table Sessions Real Talk,
Yeah.
episode 1 with Jon Gilley.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.